Jai Ma. So we continue with volume 15, Collected Works of the Mother, volume 15, Words of the Mother, volume 3. And there are two main passages I have taken out. One is on suffering. So always we hear about suffering karma. Now the question, the nutty question, it used to bother me also, that if it is karma, what can you do about it? Is it something fixed like a destiny because you have done something in the past? But at the same time, it was very evident that a lot of suffering is simply because of attitudes. So, what is more important? Is it attitudes? Is it karma? If you change the attitude, it vanishes. So, event can be karma. Understandable. Say somebody has a, husband who is uncaring. But if you look at it another way, it can be cause of suffering or it can be a cause of happiness. Because then you can turn to divine without any botheration. So it all depends on how. So this was very clear that there is something we are missing. What really is suffering? And we have so many talks, so many metaphysical theories. Here is something which the mother reveals to us. This is a conversation dated 5th February 1956. These are very brief conversations, not elaborate detail, but she is giving the sutras. Question is, how can suffering be overcome? All of us. The problem is not as simple as all that. The causes of suffering are innumerable and its quality also varies a great deal. Although the origin of suffering is one and the same and comes from the initial action of an anti-divine will. So one thing is very clear, love for suffering is never a good way. Some people like to torture their bodies, sadhu sleeping on bed of nails. You don't have to do that. It's a vicarious wish for suffering. So wanting suffering, making a gospel out of suffering, that's not the way, because he is Anandamay. Imagine, because Sri Krishna specifically has cautioned us. No? He says in the Gita, when people suffer, I take the suffering. So, we'll make our friends suffer just because we want to go. So, suffering is not the way. And Sri Aurobindo clarifies it in the Synthesis of Yoga, that he is a child whom you foster and love and care for. The only place suffering comes in yoga is when you dislodge the band of spirit's enemy whose names are lust, fear, greed, etc. He says that it brings some suffering, but he says whatever suffering it brings, it is better to do it. Otherwise, this is not a path where you deliberately make yourself suffer and then he's not happy because you are actually turning him into swallowing the poison. So that's why in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo says the soul's suffering is not key, is not the key. So it is the action of the anti-divine will. An anti-divine will. So what is anti-divine will? We all know, we can read about it later on. There is in the creation, there is operational, a set of forces whose purpose is to oppose you, to create difficulties. And as the mother says, in their origin, they are instruments of sincerity. They will point out a little, some wrong tendency or but they will clap a Himalaya around it. Oh, you are bad, you are a sinner. All this is their method. They want to dishearten, basically. And they keep on bringing that same difficulty again and again, though it gets modified because of the action of the grace. So the purpose of anti-divine force is to turn you away, or they will lure you for something else, that what are you going to get out of yoga ultimately? Might as well eat, drink and be merry. Afterwards, when illness comes, you say, this is the time I was cheated. But they do that, they play their games. So it's anti-divine will. Suffering is due to that. To make this easier to understand, one can divide suffering into two distinct categories. Several places Mother has written so many things. So we should understand this is not a final and ultimate everything that she has to say, she has said here. No. We all know that. But still, here it's very beautifully given. Although in practice they are very often mixed. So there are two distinct categories, they are often mixed. The first is purely egoistic and comes from a feeling that one's rights have been violated. So common. Rights have been violated. That one has been deprived of one's needs, offended, despoiled, betrayed, injured, etc. Now it can go to any extent. It starts with that whole theory of childhood trauma. Very common theory. And sometimes people have asked me, sir, I am not able to remember some trauma. I said, there may not be a trauma. No, sir. The counselor has told there has to be a trauma. Now, a neurotic has to look for a trauma. So the mind is a great player. No, once my mom had left me and I was crying in the bathroom. I said, I have had these experiences so many times. That's not trauma. It happens sometimes. No, nobody deliberately does it. Sometimes it happens. But trauma. Then it comes to when you are a little grown up, your friend. Then, of course, your boyfriend, girlfriend, trauma. Then husband, wife. Now when you have nobody to blame, ultimately you blame God, the ultimate trauma giver. So there are theories like that. No, you have to blame somebody, so there is trauma. So she says, but basically at the heart of it, it is egoism. The people who often ask, often they write to me and they ask, why this happened to so-and-so person? He is very nice. So basically passing the responsibility onto the divine. I said, okay, first of all, let's go logically. You believe that suffering is due to punishment according to karma. Whether it's right or wrong, leave that aside. How do you know what the person is inside and what they have done or not done? Nobody knows. It's so easy to put a nice facade to start with. No, they are very nice. I said, that in behavior, no. In behavior. I said, that's very easy. A salesperson can put on a very nice show. I'm not saying they are bad people. But this theory that somebody is nice, nicety has become a way of life, outwardly. So this is one part. Second is that, this implicit behind it is that suffering is a result of punishment. No, there is not necessary. You don't have to. And Sri Aurobindo gave a very beautiful, in a letter, blows do not come to you because there is something bad in you or because you have done something wrong. They come to all human beings. And then he gives the reason. They come to all human beings because they are attached to things that are in their very nature transient. See, it's so simple. You think my husband or my wife or whatever my is perfect, you will suffer. You are expecting too much. So they will be suffering because you are expecting the person to be divine. Now, potentially everybody is divine, but in real life, very few have realized that state. So she says, but then you feel that betrayed, injured. Well, there are instances where there has been betrayal. But if you keep on saying this person betrayed me, all your life you can remain in a state of feeling betrayed. You can even file cases and, activist as, okay, one can do it. Demand of justice perhaps. But it is not helping. You are completely sucked into that energy. Whereas if you take the lesson, that one little lesson can really change your whole life. Kalidas didn't say, I have been betrayed by Ratnavali. His wife told him, not Ratnavali, sorry. He was, of course, it started with him apparently cheating. He didn't know, but the Pandits made a fool. And then she thought, he is very good in Sanskrit. It's a very funny story, no? This princess wanted to marry someone who is very good in learned because she had pride that I am someone. So you see, when you read the story, pride brings hubris. So hubris brings nemesis. So the Pandits, nobody could beat her. So they arranged a setup. So Kalidas that time was a big fool. So They called him, will you just, you have to play a game, means don't speak, we'll speak on your behalf. He said, okay. So said he won't speak, but with sign language you can have a debate. So this lady showed one finger, sab kamali cake. He showed two fingers. Said, what does it mean? So Pandits explained that he is one, but basically for the sake of manifestation they are two. Yeah, I didn't think like that. Then she showed five fingers. Panch Tattva. Then Kalidas showed like this. He said, what does it mean? He said, five tattvas is not enough. They have to come together. I said, very good. So like that she got married. And then there was a, camel going outside, and he suddenly said, Utra, Utra, Utri. It's not a word you use for in Sanskrit. He said, what? You don't know Sanskrit? He said, no, I don't care. I don't know Sanskrit. He said, what was this? He said, nothing. You said one finger. I thought you were saying, I'll take away your one eye. I showed two fingers. I'll take away both your eyes. You showed me a slap. I showed you a fist. She realized she has been tricked. She threw him out. Poor fellow went away. He is weeping at night as the story goes. What is this fate? And then it seems he wanted to commit suicide. What is the use of life? He is a fool, but there is a possibility in that fool. So then he sees a well where he wants to jump. He sees that because the rope has gone back and forth on that well, on that stone wall of the well, there is a groove. So he says, if groove can come on this stone by the rassi, which is so thin, maybe I too have some hope or possibility. That's when Mother Kali appears. See how nicely we are talking about Mother Kali's story. And she says everything is possible. She can change destiny. So that's why his name got Kalidas. This is one of the fables. I don't vouchsafe for. And he is supposed to have been one of the great vibhutis. Sri Aurobindo speaks of these three persons who are the cornerstones of Indian literature. Vyas, Valmiki and Kalidas. And amazing writings. He has even translated, sort of, not translated, but written on Vikram Urvashi, that part, and Abhikyan Shakuntalam little bit. Amazing. So, she says that, well, Kalidas didn't do this. Oh, just because you are a princess, you'll do this. I am going to make a slogan. Khette dao, na to gaddi, chede dao, communist slogan. She didn't do that. He looked inside and he was disheartened and the Divine Mother appeared. But normally we don't do that. This whole category of suffering is clearly the result of hostile action, and it not only opens the door in the consciousness to the influence of the adversary, but is also one of his most powerful ways of acting in the world. The most powerful of all, if in addition there comes its natural and spontaneous consequence, hatred and the desire for revenge in the strong, despair and the wish to die in the weak. Now we understand why Sri Aurobindo and the mother spoke of communism as a very dark web. Because its whole basis is based on external inequality, not on the inner truth. It turns your whole attention to the external world, the money, that too, money factor. And then it starts saying revolution flows with the barrel of the gun. Revenge, hatred, all kinds of things which we are all seeing all this. It fills you with more and more anger, nothing else. So she says a lot of suffering is simply because of a wrong attitude, where you feel we have been wronged. Psychological suffering almost invariably. Somebody is wrong and not me. It could be your husband, children, parents. Ultimately God, he has to bear the buck, no? Poor fellow can't help it. So somebody is wronged. Wronged me and it is God. I am perfect. It It is because of somebody else's wrong. And it is very dangerous because what will it do? It will fill our heart with hatred, anger, depression. Because I can't change that person. So often I say, if you keep thinking somebody has done wrong to you, then you have put yourself in a kind of hole from where you cannot come out. Because then I am not responsible. I have to do nothing about myself. It's not about whether other person has done a wrong or not. That's his problem. I often say, look here, that is his problem. It is between that person's karma and the divine. Problem is that I have not yet understood the root of my pain is attachment. That's what we come back to Sri Aurobindo's letter. That blows fall on all human beings not because there is something bad in them, but because they are attached to things that are in their very nature transient and do not last. So then what happens? They go away and there is suffering. So he says to turn to the divine is the only truth of life which brings lasting peace, happiness, all these things. Because the moment you take it that, well, that's it. And there is no hope, no way. You will suffer all life. That's it. So this is one kind of suffering. And in this, everything, even physical injuries. Here she is speaking mainly of psychological. But in physical injury, what is the role of the mind? Oh, why did I fall down? Oh, you've fallen down. Yeah, do something about it. So there is very interesting story about physical suffering. Look at Amrita. Amrita, we all know about him. So when he had a heart attack, and the day he has passed away, even otherwise he would go and when he would go, somebody would ask him, what happened, Amrita? You have got, I heard heart attack. He would say, no, my sweetheart is giving me some trouble. Nolnida, Dilipda was recounting that he was sitting and suddenly he went in. He was thinking why Nolnida is having suffering, why he is having pain. And in that state he went into a sleep in our nursing home. Suddenly he got up because Nolnida had woken up and he was staring at him. He could read all the thoughts and everything. So Dilipda suddenly looked, yes, Nolnida, anything. He said, it is due to global karma which we have to take upon ourselves. So global karma. I mean, he was taking upon himself lot of pain. Same with Pavitrada. Now that's another level of suffering which he talks about. So, but first is our attitude. Even when there is a gross physical something, we can still take an attitude that this is the body, but I can be free of suffering. Suffering is a typically psychological response. This is pain. Pain could be there, but you can still not suffer by putting yourself away from that zone. Yes, the body is having pain, you need to do something about it. But the reaction that comes is always, by egoistic means, a very limited entity. I'm just this physical being. So this is the one category. The other category, which we spoke about, Nolnida types. The other category of suffering whose initial cause is the pain of separation created by the adversary is totally opposite in nature. So what is the pain of separation created by the adversary? Not contact with the divine. See, if we are in contact with the divine, as Omar Khayyam has written very beautifully, though he has written a very symbolic language because in Islam you couldn't freely talk about mysticism. So he says that I have entered into wilderness, but even in wilderness, once I have the wine and you, now wine is that Ananda and you, he doesn't define who is this you. And he says, and wilderness is paradise now. That's what we see in the experience of all these great ones. Even in jail, even on the gallows. How could they say these things? They actually, because extreme physical pain. Guru Tegh Bahadur, actually, in Sikh history if you see, he's being taken, all that Aurangzeb wanted was, you accept Islam. He said no. His children and he, all of them, three have been, he was given tortured on a hot plate. And these children were put on the wall, living dead, entombed. And he tells his children when they are about to be put, he smiles and he says, ये मौत नहीं है, ये शहादत है. You are being martyr. Remember the divine, remember the Lord. He always does good. And they go smiling. It's a very well-known thing. I think they've probably made some movie now recently. They should have made. So it's a you have sacrificed your life. You are going, Lord is coming to take you. Even that extreme physical pain people have borne. When you look at how Sri Aurobindo in the jail, how he writes, he has got one bowl which is to be used for eating, drinking water, ablutions, everything. Sri Aurobindo doesn't say, why is God doing this to me? When you read Kara Kahani, Tales of Prison Life, you just wonder. You say, He has kept us so nicely, even in the ashram. That's why Mother once says, Sri Aurobindo says, what rose-petaled sadhaks you all are. Because they don't want us to go through all that. But how he has lived. When you read it, you say, this is nothing. And even psychologically, if you see, he is separated from everybody. The cause for which he has lived, you don't know what that cause will happen. But none of that. But he lives in that state of, inner ecstasy, Vasudevam Sarvamiti. So, it is the separation. Meaning thereby, if you are suffering, join again. Instead of turning outward, take this as an opportunity to turn toward the divine. So that's why suffering should change into longing. Longing should change into yearning. And yearning should change into union. And when that takes place, suffering is no more there. But it is originally because of pain of suffering. And we can even imagine, even if we use the word imagination, if one is there with all those physical events happening, and suddenly you have the divine right there, and you are conscious, will you suffer? There was a man who never believed in the divine mother. He would say, yes, she's a very intelligent lady, that's it. And then later on he got hooked to Savitri, and then many things happened. When he was on deathbed, he was actually seeing the Divine Mother in front, and he's telling, take away all this, I don't need this. Mother is there and I'm in delight. I knew him very well. And his wife is saying, Ki bolche, what are you saying? He says, I am not, don't think I am mad. She is there. Why are you putting me through all this? I don't need to be in the hospital. I'll depart. She has come to take me. So that's another dimension. That is because of this separation. We often, by getting depressed, create more separation. By blaming the divine, we get more separated. That's what the forces want. So it's also an action of the anti-divine. They want to make you feel more and more separated from the divine. So he says, this is also created by the adversary, is totally opposite in nature. It is the suffering that comes from divine compassion, the suffering of love that feels compassion for the world's misery, whatever its origin, cause or effect. The divine does not judge us. For God's sake, he would not be divine. That's what Sri Aurobindo says. Sri Ramakrishna also says that Semitic religions created a divine who is a judge, stern judge. But what did Indian religion give? It gave the divine as friend. You play with Krishna. That's how. So this, and mother, she played tennis. She took everybody along. So the divine compassion, that why aren't the person doing what he is supposed to do? Just turn towards me. He is turning more and more away. So that's where, those who are divinely charged, higher beings, they suffer because of that compassion. They take the suffering of others. Mother would take upon herself this suffering of humanity. That why aren't people doing it? So simple, so easy. And she describes it that Sri Aurobindo could see that they are just happy, enjoying life. Being with the divine means what you can imagine. The joy you feel, even now, when, So imagine what would be the state. And then she described that Sri Aurobindo saw that though everything was being done for them, they were just happy with the laissez-faire. So what did Sri Aurobindo do? He says he did not blame anyone. He plunged into the inconscient to see what is really their problem. and he saw the inconscient holding back. That's a different story. So divine compassion brings, it's not suffering of that kind. He describes it, she describes it. But this suffering, which is of a purely psychic character, even in individual life, there is something called a psychic suffering. When you see your life is not going the way you want it to go, psychic would love to be surrendered, to be fully in the service of the divine, but for whatever reason it is not able to do it. Then it suffers. It's called psychic suffering. But this suffering, which is of a purely psychic character, contains no egoism, no self-pity. It is full of peace and strength and power of action. Next you say, okay, fine, let me do what I am supposed to do, to be closer to divine. Of faith in the future and the will for victory. It does not pity, but consoles. It does not identify itself with the ignorant movement in others, but cures and illumines it. So that's what we see with the story of Ratnakar and Valmiki, or Angulimal, or the famous one Jagai and Madhai. It sees that why they are leading a life of wormhood. But what it does is it cures. Now some people take offense to it, it's different. They don't like it. But this is the whole idea that it can awaken. That you don't need to suffer. So, but you have to be very careful where you are saying. One of my friend, doctor, medical doctor, so to his Dadaji who was on his deathbed, he suddenly told him, Dadaji, you have been reading Gita every day. Why are you suffering so much? And he says that Dadaji left the body, but came in my dream. And I had extreme pain in my heart. I got up with fear, with sweat all around. And then Dadaji is actually telling him, now you understand what is that suffering I was going through. Real story. I am not joking. But another person would take it in a right spirit that yes, after all, it's true. So, it is obvious that in the purity of its essence, only that which is perfectly divine can feel that suffering. Which suffering? Higher suffering. Compassion, divine compassion. Shobindra and the mother took so much on themselves. Pavitrada left the body, and mother said he got bone cancer and how he would. She said he was taking everybody's suffering into himself. So many people would turn to him and he would take that suffering. That's how Shobindra, when he was asked, Sir, you have cured thousands and thousands of people. Aren't you applying your force to yourself? He said, no. So he was asked why. He said, no, you won't understand. Later on, mother said he was taking into himself. That's a very pure divine movement. But partially, momentarily, like flashes of lightning behind the dark clouds of egoism, it appears in all who have a vast and generous heart. You'll feel that touch. Pure divine compassion, difficult, but tell me, why aren't you? It's so easy, so simple. All that is needed is turn toward the divine and see life will change. And those who have gone through it know it very well. But no. However, most often in the individual consciousness, it is mixed with that mean and petty self-pity which is the cause of depression and weakness. What is that meanness and petty self-pity? Oh, why has divine chosen me? He chose you for something very beautiful. You didn't do that. Now this meanness comes in. Why he has chosen me for suffering? He has not chosen you. It's your attachment which is bringing suffering. Even today, you want to get rid of it, you can do that. And actually, it's a pity. Sometimes I say that, especially here, we have been called here, living here, turned towards Mother and Shri Aurobindo. What more is required? Still people, those pettinesses, sometimes those quarrels come up, suffering. What's the point? But that's how it is. Nevertheless, when one is vigilant enough to refuse this mixture, or at least to reduce it to a minimum, one soon realizes that this divine compassion is based on a sublime and eternal joy, which alone has the strength and the power to deliver the world from its ignorance and misery. So I'm reminded of Chomdi's mother. She had narrated this experience herself, how her husband, or rather Chomdi's father, had died young age, 42, when he went through appendicitis, and mother had told him not to go for the surgery. He went, listened to the doctor, and he died. So naturally, young woman, Milidhi, we all know, Miniti, sorry, all her voice is there in Sunil Das music. So they went to meet the mother, this which was how so both of them went. This little baby, 3-year-old, and so she was describing that mother was waiting at the door and with her arms spread. And as soon as she goes, her face is down and with all that tearfulness, mother asked her only one question. Do you want to see him? Now this she had never expected. See a format meaning. And mother could do that. You want to see him. Now she became quiet. She said, Mother, he is with you. Yes, he is with me and happy. Then I don't want anything. Finished. Everything just washed away. Yeah, of course, the mother embraced them, gave them, and she said, it just went away in one moment. What else I'll require? So that's another way. Another story is of Chandradeep ji. Some of us may have heard his name, very well known in the Hindi zone. So when his wife left for some time, he used to feel very sad about it. And then one day, I think a month or 2 months, suddenly from mother's picture, he sees as if she has come out, some kind of an apparition coming from behind. And suddenly he says, I left and I am with the mother so that you can pursue your sadhana freely. Why are you depressed? Then he realized, what am I doing? So these are facts that there are two ways of looking at the same thing. One is egoistic, the second is divine. When we look at it egoistically, we suffer. When we look at it divinely, our heart is filled with both joy and compassion for those who are unable to look at it divinely. And this suffering too will disappear from the universe only with the total disappearance of the adversary and all the effects of his actions. So what does the adversary do? He just takes hold of the mind. All those thoughts, see what happened, why this happened. You're not the first person to whom it's happening. Life is full of these things. Let's come try to look for a permanent solution. That logical mind will say that. It's not that I have been chosen. And if I turn to God only for personal protection, then what is the difference between me and the mafia fellow? We have not turned to divine to get, these kind of things. We have turned to the divine for the ultimate boon of boons, to become one with Him, whatever be the events on the way. And with this, there is something which is connected about karma. This sort of fatality that one sometimes feels weighing heavy on one's life, which is called karma in India, is the result of past lives. Indeed, it is something that has to be exhausted, something that weighs on one's consciousness. So what is this past life? Let's be very clear. It's certain patterns we have formed. It's not about sin and or reward and punishment. It's very simply because we have to connect with this suffering. You have a habit. Habit becomes a way of life, character. And some of these things, because we have never really disengaged and tried to understand, they are carried over. And when they are carried over, they bring that suffering. Is a reminder that, look here, it's a bad habit. As simple as that. But we start looking at theories, Rahu, Ketu, God knows, all the gods suddenly start playing. Because basically it is a habit, habits of the mind, habits of the heart, habits of the physical, vital, whatever. And suffering is a course correction. But karma operates like that. And then she says, the psychic being passes from one life to another, each life on earth being the occasion and means for a further progress, for a further growth. So it's a constant from class 1 to class 2 to class 3. But it can happen that the psychic takes birth with the intention of going through a certain experience, of learning a certain thing, of developing a certain faculty through a definite experience. So again, it's not about reward and punishment, it's learning and growth. Then, and that's why, whatever is there, take it in this life and be done with it and finish the learning process. Otherwise, it'll come back. You will keep changing circumstances. Then in that life, in the life in which the experience has to be gone through for one reason or the other, there may be several. The soul does not fall exactly on the spot where it should. A displacement of some kind can occur. And in that case, sometimes the incarnation miscarriages. It couldn't exhaust. So early death takes place. It comes again 2-3 times because now it's trying that. It has to exhaust some tendency, some problem inside. And so it takes. So normally it goes through a couple of lives. And then, okay. I have seen it many times. It creates a dreadful karma. No, she says sometime because of this, if in a body with an inadequate will or a deformation in the thought or too tough an egoism, and the attempt ends in suicide, then it is something frightful. Because now what you did was you are trying to bypass and cut short. That doesn't work out. That's why suicide is considered as the Gora karma. Utkat karma, which you can't just, you are trying to shortcut, there is no short. Go through it. Simplest is to go through what you have to go through. With hope, aspiration, faith in the divine, she'll take care. But if you try this, then the cosmic forces react because it's not just you connected, but there is a whole world which is interconnected. Everybody has repercussions. So she says, I have seen it many times. It creates a dreadful karma which may repeat itself life after life before the soul becomes capable of conquering and doing what it wants to do. And each time the conditions become more and more difficult. So you repeat it, okay? Nature creates, till you touch rock bottom and you are helpless. And then what do? That's how the Gita says, Shri Krishna says, that in that final state you call the divine. Then you are rescued soon. But it's going through painful passages. And each time the conditions become more and more difficult, each time a considerably greater effort is demanded. It also means, if life is given to us, opportunity is given to us, let's say for the divine, put 200% into it if possible, or maximum that is possible. Because if you delay, it's no point. It will come back. And more difficult. There was a possibility which you could, everything was relatively fine. So she is reminding us. It has sometimes been said that one cannot get out of it. Indeed, the subconscious memory of the past. Now here comes the habit part. It is a subconscious memory. You have adopted a way, it remains in the subconscious even after death, as modern past life regression therapies tells us. And it springs up again. Because with your death, it's not that physical, vital, mental things ultimately go. Something gets integrated with the psychic. But the subconscious is the reservoir where leftover things are there to be sorted out. And they come back. And one begins again the same stupidity or an even greater stupidity, and to the difficulty already so great it added yet another. Also there are moments or circumstances when nobody is there to help you, to instruct you, to guide you. You are all alone, not knowing what to hang on to. The situation then becomes so terrible, the circumstances are so abominable. What should we do? Remedy is very simple. That's what she is telling us. But if only once the soul has made an appeal, if once it has made contact with the grace, then in the following life, one immediately finds oneself in conditions where everything can be swept away at one stroke. Remedy is to connect with the grace. People do just the opposite. They even end up blaming God, even closing themselves more and more. And if there is faith, okay, then this is, at that moment you need to have a great courage. In next life, suddenly that moment will come to overcome it. Grace will arrange it and it will support you. All that you need is some great courage, endurance, though at times a true love is sufficient. And this is because it's your karma, something you have to do from your side. Grace will take you through it. Just. All that is needed is a moment of true love. And if there is faith, a very little is enough, then everything is swept away. Faith in the divine grace. That's all that is required. But it must, in most cases, what you need is if that is not there, then when it comes again and again, then it needs a stoic courage, a capacity to endure and to hold out, the resistance, especially in the case of a previous suicide, resistance to the temptation to again begin this foolishness, because it makes a terrible formation. It's a habit which is carrying on. There are habits which continue in the subconscious and pop up. Original pop culture. It comes back again. Now you have not sorted out homework. Nature says, Bhaiya, ye kiya nahi tha, aage badhna. You want to go ahead, but first finish your test you have to give. Now, what does divine grace when you turn says, okay, you give the test, you sit, I'll tell you. I'll hold your pen and write. That's what the divine grace does. Takes the karma onto itself, cleanses it. There is also this habit of not looking the difficulty straight in the face, which is translated by taking flight. Everybody else is bad except me. I am the target. Why? You are the target of evolution. But we end up looking at always somebody else is always at fault. When suffering comes, fly. This is how people do. Instead of absorbing the difficulty, instead of holding tight, that is to say, not striving within, not stirring within, not yielding. Yes, above all, not yielding when you feel within, I cannot bear it any longer. Hold your head as quiet as possible. Do not follow the movement. Do not obey the vibration. Say in all sincerity, Mother, joy or sorrow, all is yours. I receive it as your prasad. Now when you don't run away, because if you run away, you will face the same thing wherever you go. This is your guttery. You are carrying it all the time. You can run away from circumstances, but you can't run away from yourself. That is what is needed. Just that faith in the grace, perception of the grace, or else, even if you don't have faith, intensity of call, or better still, the response, the not opening, breaking, the response to this wonderful love of the grace. World is what it is, okay, but grace is what it is. The mother's love is there. What else is required? Once this habit gets ingrained, this attitude gets ingrained, whatever the world may be doing, I turn to the Divine Mother, then it just takes care of everything. I know people going through even last stages of malignancy, spread everywhere, even here. And they would say, we have only this, we just turn to the Mother and everything is swept away. So this is the path of the grace. Sri Aurobindo's yoga, if somebody says, what is the path? Path of grace. If you cannot open to the grace, then you have the whole set of integral yoga. Mother has come embodying grace. That's how she has put it, and Sri Aurobindo has said. When people would complain to Mother, Mother, this happened, you do the justice. Then Sri Aurobindo had to write, she has not come here to embody justice. She embodies grace. That's why she kept everybody and everyone embodying grace. The most terrible thing is when you do not have the strength, the courage, something indomitable. How often they come and tell me, I want to die, I want to run away, I want to die. They get the answer, well, then die to yourself, to the ego. That's what even see Kabir Das, what does he say? He says, ye to ghar hai prem ka, khala ka ghar nahi. This is the house of love, not your maternal aunts. Sheesh kataye, bhui dhare, tab baithe ghar mahi. Take off the head, keep it on the floor, then you enter. That's what we are sometimes made to do. When When you are new, no, to the ashram and suddenly you'll ask, gate pass, you are carrying in your head, I am somebody, wing commander or doctor or whatever you are. He will not care. He will say gate pass. Now you try to say gate pass. So what is he doing? He is helping actually. Simply say, I forgot it, I will bring it. Now that is the victory over yourself. You don't know me. I have been coming here for so many years, decades. You don't know me. You are trying to teach me what time to come. You have lost it. This is the difference. Sheesh kataye bhuindare. Once I saw a man arguing at the gate like that. So I asked him, thoda side mein bula ke na, bhai tu aaya kyun hai? Why have you come? He was in Hindi. He said, I want to go to Samadhi. I said, go to Samadhi. No, he is insisting that cell phone and all this. I said, you go to the Samadhi, switch off, go to the Samadhi and come out. Why are you trying to put logic in the head of an illogical person? I said, he is doing his job. What is your problem? You want to go to Samadhi? Or you want to fight with him, turn out victorious in a dispute, mock dispute? I said, just go, do it and go. It's as simple as that. You pass through the needle, that's how it is. You are not asked to let your ego survive. Die to yourself. Once you want to die, have that courage. The true courage to die to your egoism. It can be such a wonderful thing. This is a very nice couplet of another saint. He says, our greatest friend is one who criticizes us. Why? He says, because he cleanses our sins and carries their burden on his own head. Paap hamare dhoye. It's a very bad job description to keep pointing mistakes. That's why I sometimes pity people who are always criticizing others. I said, यार तुम्हारी जिंदगी में क्या हो रहा है? तुम ये तो देखो. What are you? You are absorbing all that into your head. How is it helping you? First of all, leave aside whether your assessment is right or wrong. Are you God who is able to see the inner being, inner truth of everybody? No. You're not able to see what is happening in the person. You have no clue at all. Be humble that I don't know. So gain knowledge. Gain knowledge, become one with the divine. And when you will see, then you will not criticize, you will change. That's how the mother puts it. That when you have the knowledge and the power, you don't criticize. It's a waste of time. You will change because you have that capacity inside now. And this is what one encounters several times when one walks on the spiritual path. But because it is karma, you have to do something yourself, some little exercise. Karma is a construction of the ego. That's it. That's why it is only in human beings. You don't say, tiger did a bad karma, it must be punished. No. Tiger does what it does. It's divine in his magnificent movement, leaping, hiding, crouching, leaping on the deer, and poor deer's mummy is crying. Tiger is not doing a bad karma. So it's not the action, it's the ego which believes I am the doer. So if you believe you are the doer, then take the burden of your karma. When you know you are not the doer, that's why Shri Krishna gives that first Nishkam karma. After that, remember and offer. Know that I am the doer. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Then sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshishami masucha. It's inevitable. Because then the divine has taken up your burden. He is anyways having the original burden is with him. So, the truth is this, karma is the result of the actions of the ego, and it is only when the ego abdicates that karma is dissolved. You can aid the ego, you can assist it, you can give it force and infuse it with courage, but it must use them. There is such a gulf between what we truly are and what we are at present, that it turns your head giddy at times. You must not yield to the giddiness. Be still like a stone until the thing passes away. And then she gives final clue. Generally, when the time has come for a karma to be conquered and absorbed by the grace. There also comes the image or the knowledge or the experience of the exact facts that are the cause of the karma. You will be able to see some tendency inside which is leading to suffering and pain. Tendency within me, within us. It'll come like an image. And then at that moment, you can start the cleaning. But it is just at the most painful point. It's so easy to say others are wrong, others are bad. But to look inside. That's why Kabir says, no? Kabira, bura jo dekhan mein chala, mujhse bura na koi. That's all the mystics have said this. If you start seeing evil, you will end up pointing the finger at yourself. Am I somebody absolutely pious and pure? No. Everybody has their difficulties. You'll develop a benevolence. When you struggle with your own difficulties, you will understand how difficult it is with everyone. But it is just at the most painful point, there where the suggestions are the strongest, that you must bear the blow. Otherwise, you will always have to start over again, always start over again. One day, a moment comes when the thing has to be done, when one must make the true inner gesture that liberates. To tell the truth, now she takes us to the ultimate level. To tell the truth, just now there is upon earth an opportunity which presents itself only after thousands of years. 1958. The divine grace is active, the supramental can just dissolve it. And so many of us have these experiences. I mean, one whole class can go in that direction. And suddenly the grace comes and things which somebody even asked the mother, how is it when I am least, I have tried everything, then given up, and then suddenly it disappears. He says, yes, because then you open to the grace. A conscious help with the necessary power. It was once believed that nothing had the power to wipe away the consequences of a karma. That's how we read in literature. That it was only by exhausting it through a series of purificatory acts that the consequence could be transformed, exhausted, effaced. But with the supramental power, this can be done without the need of going through all the steps of the process of liberation. This is something she elaborates elsewhere also, because it is the divine consciousness directly operating. It can completely, and these are there in our stories, like story of Kubja, whom Shri Krishna simply says, oh beautiful one, and suddenly she becomes beautiful. These are very beautiful stories. Or Ahilya. The stories basically indicate that with the divine grace, karma can completely be effaced. But you have to open to that grace. If you take the other turn of revolt, anger, depression, then you are just creating more and more wall and difficulties. Okay, so may we all be free from the law of karma. Well, we are all by the grace. And then walk the joyous, happy, sunlit path. Jai Ma.